What's going on, everyone? Luke here with the Georgia Tech Fan account at Burner Sims. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Week 2 post-game thoughts at home versus Western Carolina. I'm going to give you my thoughts on that game, and then we're going to move on into looking ahead into Ole Miss for Week 3, big matchup that we have on ABC at 3:30 Eastern. So I'll personally be there. So hope to see some of you guys at that game. Let's start off with that. Also, just a preface before this video. I think that a lot of what happens on this upcoming Saturday is going to be dependent on how full the stadium is and how loud and electric that atmosphere is. Because the Western Carolina game was not packed at all. The listed attendance was like 35,000, but that's just based on ticket sales, not actual attendance. I don't think there was that many people there. There might have been 25, if that. And that's very uninspiring. I know the weather was bad. I know it wasn't a great opponent, and we're coming off a loss and everything, but you can't make excuses for that. You got teams like Nebraska filling up their stadium every weekend and still losing. So there's no excuse for that. We definitely got to fill the stadium up if a big opponent like Ole Miss comes into town, because I think that really does impact the football game. And definitely, I mean, you saw it versus Clemson. That defense was feeding off the crowd for sure. So, yeah, if you have an opportunity to go to this game or any other in the future, it's definitely good to go. Support the team. So, all right, let's dive into post-game thoughts. So we're going to start with the offense. And to be honest, pretty uninspiring, in my opinion. The passing game was not there. Jeff Sims did not look very good. 8 for 17, 100 yards and a pick. He only attempted to pass 17 times, so you're not going to get any crazy numbers out of him. It was said going into this game that it was going to be a run-heavy game, which it was. So you can't sit there and be like, oh my God, we've regressed, we're awful. But the passing game did not look good. Jeff did not exactly look accurate a lot of times. And like I said, could have been the weather, could have been other things. But in my personal opinion, I just think the team, as far as from a passing game goes, at least, just looked really uninspired. They didn't look like they wanted to really pass the ball that much or that well. So that was definitely evident. And that's a problem going into this next game. I think that it's going to be important for us going forward, especially versus Ole Miss, to be able to pass the ball effectively, because we're not going to be able to dominate the run game on a lot of teams like we did on this Western Carolina team. So the pass game was not there, and I'll hit on why I think that is later. But moving on to the run game, run game was very awesome. Offensive line was a bright spot, I think. And keep in mind when I'm saying these things that this is Western Carolina. This is a smaller defensive line, probably one of the smallest we're going to see all year. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, because it's an opponent that we have more talented players than. But with that being said, the O-line got a great push on run blocking. You have Dante, 11 carries, 102 yards, 3 touchdowns. McDuffie had a touchdown. Hassan Hall added about 20 yards. I think McDuffie might have had 40, 45. So that's a good sign. We didn't run the ball at all versus Clemson. We had to rely solely on the pass. And that just kind of killed us, because we don't have elite receivers right now to be able to run down the field and blow the tops off of secondaries. So the run game has to be there. And that's something that Chip Long has said from the start. That's what he wanted to establish. And it is good news that here we are in week 2 with a game that we have the potential to establish a run game in, and we go in and we, our starting running back gets 3 touchdowns and goes over 100 yards on 11 carries. So he's averaging like 10 yards a carry, which is more than what you can ask for from your starting running back. So I was really impressed with the run game. Hope we can keep that rolling. I think it's going to be really important for this team, like I said, especially with a guy like Jeff Sims, who has such a high ceiling and such potential, but also struggles a lot. and has a tendency to get inside his own head. And when he does that, we have to be able to lean on the run game, because if we can't, then he's going to keep going out there and making mistakes. So, but looking for a guy like Jeff Sims definitely to bounce back on Saturday. If he doesn't, then we're probably not going to win the game. So that'll be something to keep an eye on for sure. Jeff Sims' bounce back. Another thing is if we can keep this running game rolling. But the offense in general looked okay. Now, a lot of fans are saying that the play calling was like took a huge step back from the Clemson game. They weren't impressed at all. And let me tell you why I don't think that's a reason to worry. Um, I don't think that now, is it true that the play calls were very bland, very boring? And a lot of times I was scratching my head on third down because we didn't bring, I mean, the only thing I saw that was really inspiring on offense the whole night was that reverse that Nate McCollum took 40 yards to the house, which was an awesome play call. But I think why that is because I think Chip Long was doing that on purpose, because as a football team, you're always told not to look ahead. You're told to focus on your opponent. But I think he knows, and the offensive staff and the offensive room with this Georgia Tech program knows that we can't put too much on film versus a team like this that's a beatable team. Chip Long knows in the back of his head, hey, we can beat this Western Carolina team with running a very basic offense where we don't have to go deep into the playbook and we don't have to put everything on film. Because when you start putting things on film, defenses are going to study it. They're going to recognize it. If they're a good defense and they're well coached, they're going to recognize when you're in that formation. And then if they're good, which we play a lot of good teams this year, Ole Miss is a good team. If they're good, they recognize that and they blow it up. Chip Long doesn't want to, it's week 2 going into week 3, and we got way many more tough opponents we got to worry about. Chip Long, I think personally, was way more focused on winning this game with just such a light bag, a light playbook. And I think that's important because I think that we didn't put a lot of stuff on film for Ole Miss to see. We did in the passing game in week 1, but week 2, I think they're coming into this game not really knowing what to expect from Jeff Sims, because Jeff Sims, it's not like we pulled out all these crazy pass plays in this game. So did it result in a game where fans weren't impressed with the win? We only win by 18 points versus an FCS team. Yeah. Fans are a little upset. Yeah. But I'm just giving you my personal reasons for why I think that the playbook was so light and that the offense was kind of uninspiring. I think that was strategic. I think that from what I saw in the Clemson game, from what I saw from Chip Long and his play calling, I think the guy really knows what he's doing, especially versus Dave Patenaude. So I don't think there's any reason to worry there. I think that everything that he was doing was for a reason. So just keep that in mind, when you're thinking about this game. And I think that going into Ole Miss, we don't have to worry about not showing anything on film, because that's a game that we're going to need the best play calling and the best execution to even have a chance to win that game. So I don't think you'll see something like that this Saturday, but that is my thoughts on that. So just to kind of ease the fans' thoughts there, I think, and that could be wrong, but that's just my opinion. And that does happen a lot in football. You'll get coordinators who, when they think they know they can win a game, they won't put everything out there on film, just so they can have a chance in the future and still come away with a win for a game like this. So that's about my thoughts for the offense. Moving on to the defense. So if you throw away the first quarter in this game, the defense was stellar. Now, Western Carolina was moving the ball the whole game. It's not like we just completely stymied them after the first quarter, but we started to settle in a little bit. We did start to force some punts, and we did start to get some sacks, and we did start to force some turnovers. Now, we're not going to be able to rely on turnovers all season like we did in this game. I think Western Carolina's offense is very explosive, but I also think it's very sloppy. And I think you saw that on Saturday night if you watched the game. And a lot of offenses aren't going to be like that. We're going to see offenses that are just as explosive, if not more, and that take care of the football. And I think that if the defense plays versus those teams like we did versus Western Carolina, I think we're going to have a problem. Now, with that being said, I think that you saw a major difference in the defense when Charlie Thomas came back in the second half because he was suspended in the first half for targeting, as we all know. That targeting call was baloney, but it is what it is. And I think that, it's not always necessarily a good sign that one player impacts your defense that much like that. But, you know, it's also a good sign because, you know that if Charlie's in the game, if Charlie and Ace Ely are at the linebacker position, Ace can move back over to his normal middle linebacker spot and Charlie can play outside. Um, and the defense starts working a lot better because when Charlie's out, Ace had to move to outside and Demetrius Knight plays inside just because he's not quick enough to play outside. So when everyone's in their good position or in their normal position, Charlie comes back in, the defense locks it down. We only allow 3 more points after the first quarter. I think that's good. That quarterback was ridiculous as far as his legs go. I thought he made pretty good decisions with his feet. He scrambled out of the pocket a lot. Our defensive line was in the backfield like a lot in this game. We got 4 sacks out of it, but if this guy wasn't as mobile as he was, I think our defense would have gotten at least like 6+ sacks, maybe 7, maybe even 8. They were in the backfield a lot, which is a good sign because the defensive line played good in the first game and this game. The defensive line has looked great. That was one of my position groups going into the season that I was worried about because I didn't think we had good depth. But these guys are playing very inspired right now. And I think that's a key for us because we haven't seen under the Jeff Collins era so far us get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. And I think that's something that's really important, especially with a secondary who still might have some question marks on how long they can cover guys up. So if you're getting in the quarterback's face consistently, that's a good sign. So linebacker play was good after Charlie came in. Like I said, secondary play was good. A lot of times the quarterback had to run because, we were just locking him up in the secondary. Now, like I said, take everything I say with a grain of salt. These receivers aren't going to be as talented as what we're going to see moving forward, especially on Saturday. But it's a good confidence builder. The DBs really looked like ball hawks out there. That pick by Derek Allen over the middle that was tipped was awesome. That read by Miles Sims was awesome. The Charlie Thomas pick was amazing. I mean, that guy is just ridiculous. And then the bobbled snap and the recovered pump by Ace Ely was also great. So this defense really looks like it built some confidence on Saturday. They were flying around. They were getting turnovers. They were getting the ball, and that's what you want to see out of your defense. So I think that defense, as far as my opinion goes, from this past Saturday was kind of a head scratcher because you can look at it from two different lenses. We did good, but there's also some things we need to work on. And I think that there's still a lot about this team that we don't know. Because we played good against Clemson. And then we come in at home to a half-empty stadium, probably over half empty. And we look pretty uninspired in a surprisingly convincing win versus Western Carolina. It was just a very weird game to me because we didn't look like we should have won by this convincing of a margin, but we did. But like I said, a lot of that could be attributed to Chip Long, not wanting to put stuff on film. You could take the weather into account. But at times, a lot of the guys just didn't look like they wanted to be out there. And we have a very hard time finishing games and keeping our foot on their throats. Charlie gets that pick late in the fourth quarter, and we go down. They force us to a field goal, and we miss it. So that's just things that you have to, as a team, if you're going to get a pick, especially versus a team like this who doesn't have a great defense, as a team, you get a pick like that, Charlie runs it down to like the 10-yard line. You got to punch that in. 42-17, I think is going to give this Georgia Tech football team a lot more confidence than 35-17, even though it's just a touchdown difference. So there's things like that this team needs to work on. But I have not seen a win from this Yellow Jacket team since Duke of last year, which was early October. So I'm going to take a win where I can get it. I'm happy. I think that the team played good enough to win this game convincingly. This is a game that I wouldn't be so sure that we win like this a couple of years ago. So I think, again, like I've said repeatedly throughout the season, the improvement's there. We're building. So I think that you can see that. I think you can see the improvement there. We have a lot to work on. But as far as the defense goes, minus the first quarter, there was a couple blown coverages. Charlie wasn't in there, like I said. People weren't in their normal spots. The defense has really impressed me this year. Now, Clemson did put up 41 in week one, but we talked about that. We kind of waved the white flag and the athletes kind of took over, which happens. But I think that this defense has been playing out of their minds. They've been playing way above their heads. They've been playing above expectations, and they got to keep it up. And I think they have that ability. We have the depth at DB now. We apparently have depth at D line that I just didn't know about because the D lines looked great. Defensive ends are getting after it. Keelan White's been impressive. Kyle Kennard's been impressive. Noah Collins has come on and been impressive. I've been really impressed with Charlie Thomas, really impressed with AC Lee. Those are guys that I knew were going to impress going into this season, though. So defense, I'm pretty pleased with. We see a high-powered offense this Saturday. So moving on into looking ahead to Ole Miss. Couple of things I want to see from this Tech team if we want to have a chance to win this game. First thing, Jeff Sims has to play like he did in week one. He has to be locked in. He's got to make good reads. And that goes along with receivers have to get open and the O-line has to protect him. But when Sims has time back there, he's got to deliver the ball on time and on target to his receivers. Because we're not going to have a lot of margin for error as far as the passing game goes against Ole Miss. Now, their defense did rank 97th in the country last year in total defense. So it's not like we're going out there and playing the Clemson defense. We're not seeing world beaters, but we're going to see better athletes than we did this past Saturday with Western Carolina. So Jeff Sims has to play better. Can he? Yes, absolutely. I think, like I said, I think a lot of what he was doing was limited because of the play calling. So I think we'll get that cleaned up and fixed, especially versus a more potent opponent in Ole Miss. So Jeff Sims has to be better. The passing game has to be better. Running game has to continue on what we saw on Saturday. We got to continue this momentum that the run game has. Because if we can establish a run on a team like Ole Miss and then take it over the top one or two times, then that'll put us in a really good shot, really good position to win this game. Because if you can establish a run on any team, then you're putting yourself in a good spot to win the game. So Dante looked great. I think that Dante finally proved to the coaching staff after 4 years of being in the program that he is the guy that you need to hand the ball to as much as you can. He only got 11 carries, but he needs the ball more. We need to feed Dante Smith. That kid is insane, and he turns every run into something positive, no matter what happens, no matter who's in the backfield. So I think that he finally is showing that, and I think that's good going into a game like Ole Miss. I think he's going to get a lot more carries. I think that we established the run early. And so, yeah, I think the run game looks good. I think we keep that rolling. Defensively, we'll have Charlie Thomas the whole game this game, which is great news. I think the linebacker play keeps up. Their O-line is pretty solid, Ole Miss's. So I think that the D-line is a big test against them. I think this O-line is just as good, if not better, than the Clemson offensive line that they saw in week one. So getting pressure on the quarterback is going to be key, but the D-line has been playing really well, and I think they have a lot of confidence. So I think that they continue to play well, and I think we get in the backfield. Their starting quarterback, Luke Altmaier, is hurt. He will not be playing. Well, Kiffin said that there's a chance that he plays on Saturday. I think they start off with Jackson Dart. Altmaier is shaken up a bit, and I just don't think they want to throw him in there. I think he's got something going on with his upper body, is all I've read. So they said he's a game time decision. Kiffin said that they're going to reevaluate who gets the first snap later in the week. So we could see Altmaier, but that's another important thing to note. They don't really have a true number one guy right now. So I don't think their quarterback room has a ton of confidence, and they haven't played. They played Troy and they've played Central Arkansas. Now Central Arkansas is an FCS team. Troy is FBS, and they looked very, very uninspiring versus Troy. More uninspiring than this Tech team did against Western Carolina. So I don't think that this Ole Miss team is invincible. I think that we can beat them, especially at home, if we get a good crowd, a good atmosphere in there. But yeah, the defense needs to get pressure on the quarterback. Linebackers need to continue to play well. DBs have to continue to play well. They have receivers that can take our tops off. They have studs. that are definitely going to be looking for the ball. They have a couple of deep threats. They got guys that can just go up and get 50-50 balls, and they have quarterbacks that can get the ball down there and just put it up for grabs. Miles Sims has been playing great. Zamari Walton's been playing okay. Zamari's a guy that I've seen get beat a couple times, but for the most part, he's there. He's playing good. And then the safety play has been pretty good too. They'll come up. Jalen King has blown me away at how physical he's been and how much passion he's been playing with. So really impressed with the DB so far this season as well. You didn't see Clemson. I mean, they didn't have really any deep shots versus us at all. And then Western Carolina didn't really either. We had a couple blown coverages, but that's about it. So DBs have been playing well. I've been really impressed with the defense, like I said. Defense has to continue to play well. As far as my score prediction goes, I have always been an optimist. I'm a diehard Georgia Tech fan, if you guys haven't figured that out yet. I think that we go into this game and we're in a dogfight, and I think we win 28-24. I think the Jackets come out on top in this game. I think we shock a lot of people. This is a pretty important game to win because it is winnable. Ole Miss hasn't seen a formidable opponent yet, I don't think. Lane Kiffin talks a lot about how his Ole Miss team hasn't really gelled yet. They have a lot of transfers. I think they have the most transfers on their roster out of any other team in the country, including Jared Ivey, who was a Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket last year. So we'll be seeing a little bit of him. He has 1.5 sacks this year. Hopefully we can keep him out of our backfield. But I don't think the team is completely gelled yet. They don't have a quarterback one that they're really ready to ride with, I don't think. I think that this is a winnable game for the Jackets, and I think we go in. Chip Long calls a really good game. We don't have a lot of stuff on film for them to dissect, so I think there's going to be a lot of looks that we throw out there offensively that they're not ready for. I think the offense plays good. I think the defense gets beat a couple times, but plays bend but don't break defense like we did versus Clemson. And I think we put ourselves in a position in the fourth quarter to win the game. Now, my prediction is 28-24. I think regardless, we're going to be in a dogfight in the fourth quarter. Now, do we come out with the win? Maybe, maybe not. But I think we're going to put ourselves in a position to win this football game. So that's what I've got. That's my week 2 post-game thoughts, my week 3 preview. Again, this is the Georgia Tech Pain account at Burner Sims, BURNERSIMS on Twitter. Give me a follow. I tweet about Georgia Tech football all the time. And I'll put these videos out once a week just talking about the games. Looking forward to seeing you guys there. Let's pack the stadium out. And hopefully, this is a really pivotal game for Jeff Collins and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. We are 1-0 at home. We have a really good shot to go 2-0 versus a top 20 team and an SEC team at that. And really garner some respect around the nation with a win on Saturday. So I think we can do it. Looking forward to see you guys there, and that'll be about it for me. So hope everyone has a good rest of their week, and go Jackets, and to hell with Ole Miss.